It's almost like a rhythm. You get up in the morning and this landscape that was so alive the night before is just vacant and empty. And then there's the mystery pulling you forward of where are they? Where could they be? And it isn't just tracks we're following or trends on the map. It's something else, you know. I truly believe that there's something else keeping us on the general trail of these caribou and coming together and then being pulled apart and coming together. So I guess I have faith that we will happen upon them again.
Good morning and welcome to Sounds Like Canada. I'm Bernard Saint-Laurent for Sheila Rogers. This morning we're going to speak with a couple who want to follow the porcupine caribou on their annual migration from Dawson City to Alaska. The animals have been doing this for thousands of years. Our conservationists are afraid that oil development will harm the herd. Listen now to the sounds of the porcupine caribou.
One of the best parts of getting ready for these trips is all the food you got to eat before. May seem like kind of eating for sport now, but we'll be darn happy in a few weeks.
120,000 caribou make the trek, and this year they'll have 2 wannabe caribou tagging along. Karsten Heuer and Leanne Allison of Canmore, Alberta. This trek in the north is motivated by the need to protect the animals.
Not sure if we should go left or right here. Can you just check that sign?
Karsten and I were married 6 months ago, and some people have joked that we're heading off on our honeymoon. But most people ask us why. Why would you drive all the way up north to follow a caribou migration on foot for months?
You know, through our work, both Leanne as a filmmaker and myself as a park warden up north, over the past couple summers, we both had the opportunity to be amongst the caribou when they were migrating. To have the drama of animals passing you for days, and the landscape going quiet behind them. There was something calling out for us to follow after them.
The migrating caribou were on their way to Calving on the coastal plain of Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge. But the disturbing thing is this name, refuge, it's a misnomer, since for decades, U.S. oil interests have been wanting to drill for oil and gas right where the caribou give birth.
Unfortunately today, the extremes blocked a bipartisan energy bill because they're worrying about the caribou in Alaska when I'm worrying about jobs for the American people. I'll go with the people, let them go with the caribou.
I think it's important for us to open up ANWR, or I think it's a mistake not to. And I would urge you all to travel up there and take a look at it. And you can make, let me finish, please. And you can make the determination as to how beautiful that country is.
It's just you and me going on this trip, Leanne, but, you know, we need a third person along. We're gonna take George Bush, show him the refuge, show him the caribou. You know, he's probably gonna be the best dressed individual of the expedition.
I also believe, and I have to believe, or I would never have the strength to do the trip, that our story is going to make a difference. That by bringing alive the story of the caribou, people will finally realize what's at stake and they'll care. Our journey starts from Old Crow, a Gwich'in First Nation community of 300. This fly-in village is located on the banks of the Porcupine River, after which this caribou herd is named. For thousands of years, Gwich'in culture has revolved around caribou.
Well, you hear stories, right? Like
Everyone we meet is talking about the upcoming migration, and it's with the enthusiasm that most people in Canada talk about the hockey playoffs. They're all wondering the exact same thing we are. When will the migration start, and what route will they take this year? Thankfully, we meet up with Randall Tetlichi, who immediately takes us under his wing. He's heading out hunting and he agrees to give us a lift.
All the animals that are in the universe, they have a chief. All living things. And that's the spirit of the, we call those spirits. The Caribou spirit lives north of Old Crow. He lives in the mountain. There's a big hole in the mountain there. And that chief grandfather, Caribou, he tell the Caribou, go feed the people, go clothe the people, go shelter the people, go look after the people, go dance for the people, and go through the communities 4 times a year to feed people.
Seems to come off pretty easy, eh?
Huh?
Seems to come off pretty easy.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't even know how it come out easy. I'm 52 years old and I've been skinning caribou the last 45 years. But remember one thing, that you always, no matter where you travel, is be ready for the unexpected. Because the unexpected might destroy you if you're not ready for it. So always be ready for the unexpected and to be calm no matter what happens.
The last thing Randall tells us is to pay attention to our dreams. That night, Karsten makes me a caribou skin bed, and I have a vivid dream that the Porcupine River is broken up and flowing. The next morning, I tell Randall my dream, and he says, "That's your sign. The migration started. You better get going."
So we'll see you.
Okay.
Take care. Good
Randall.
luck and take care. And look after yourself.
Thanks for everything.
Yeah.
And I really appreciated the story last night. And all your words of advice, we'll be remembering it all.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thanks for yesterday was really, really neat for both of us. Yeah. And we see you in the fall.
Yeah. Creator willing, we'll see you in the fall.
Oh, there goes Randall. No more skidoos, no more gas smell, no more noise, no more people. Maybe for a long time. And Randall had some good advice. He just said, just know that you're going to do it. No ifs. And it'll happen. And one of the beauties of it all is nobody knows for sure. Everybody can speculate, including us. But the only way to really know is to now follow them. So I don't know, from here on in, we may not see a caribou again. But I sure hope we do. I sure hope this works.
The porcupine herd is made up of 120,000 animals that spend the winter spread out across the central Yukon and parts of Alaska. Their migration to the Arctic coast and back is one of the longest of any land mammal. En route, they have to cross several mountain ranges and some 40 rivers. Pregnant cows lead the migration, breaking trail, while bulls follow weeks later, hanging back until calving season is over.
The tail's broken.
Day 1, April 9th, and we're finally off. How is it?
Actually, good step lengths, eh? Got the same sort of steps as we do.
Walking on the packed caribou trails is like balancing on a log for mile after mile. Ugh. We start on fresh trails, but as days go by, they get older. It's clear the group ahead of us is long gone. At the rate we're traveling, it looks like we'll never catch them. Just as we're starting to despair, we see our first big group of caribou.
All the way, scattered, well, single file, all along the canyon rim and along the flats. It's day 7 and it's rapidly sinking in that we might just be left behind. We both assumed that we could go wherever caribou go, but today has really put that into question as well. We came up this huge slope behind us, just about killed us, and just seeing some of the ridges and the things these caribou are going over and down and up, like it's just like gravity doesn't affect them. I don't know, today it just felt like it was half killing us. I've never been so tired as when we crested this hill.
Oh man, another nice day. Still just a little bit of cloud. It's so hard to get up these mornings.
We're trying to be caribou. We're not being caribou. We're following caribou.
Yeah.
We're getting left behind by caribou.
Still pretty damn exciting though.
Sleeping bag, clothes, camera case, thermorest, maps, gloves.
To carry everything we need for survival, plus our camera gear, batteries, and the solar panel to charge them, our packs end up weighing 60 to 80 pounds.
Food, jacket, first aid kit, bear spray, fuel bottle, and cup. Most important thing, me. Look at all the gack. It's incredible. I mean, here we are in the middle of one of the most beautiful landscapes in the world, and then all quiet, not a sound, no jets, no planes, nothing. And then just this huge wave of life coming over, and you're seeing an age-old relationship play out right before your eyes. It's just, it's unbelievable. And it's, I don't know, at times like this, you just feel part of something a lot larger. Whenever I see a steep slope coming up, I look up and I think, man, how the heck am I gonna climb that thing? And I think the caribou did it. And I look behind and there's a whole other group of caribou coming, and it's like they're pushing from behind. And they're pushing us, and they're pulling us. And that's how we're going through this landscape.
They just seem like perfect creatures. They're humble, they just go about their business, eating lichens. They don't crave flesh and grease and need to go out killing things. Everything just preys on them. Doesn't quite seem fair sometimes.
We've probably stuck with one group for a few days, but it's hard to discern individuals. And I think what's been happening is we've been passing some groups during the day, then they pass us at night. And it's sort of this game of tortoise and the hare going on, where they just kind of shoot ahead, stop and feed and graze and take it easy. And then we plod along with these heavy packs and eventually catch up. This wind's been howling for 3 days now, and last night it turned into blizzard.
It's so strange because you look up and you can see bright blue sky and sunshine, and yet looking down on the ground, the snow is flying by. Probably outside right now at 60 or 70 kilometers an hour.
Got the tent set up, and you can see it's moving all around, and it's snowing inside the tent just from the force of the snow hitting. It's coming right through the fabric, and just hope it holds out tonight. When you're in this, it just feels like it's never going to end. In a huge landscape like this, when it's so white, when it's howling, you just feel so small. You feel so alone. And suddenly we had these companions right in the storm. And so a wave of white would come across and then recede, and you'd see these images, these ghost-like images come out. And these animals were bedded down. These animals were feeding. They're just sitting there. And it was just another day for them. Sorry I had to leave you outside, but if you're really gonna find out what it's like to be caribou, you gotta live the conditions. Pretty cool, huh? Those guys just stayed out in the storm. Now they're moving north again. We're gonna go with them, George. We're gonna go with them. So today came up this fork of Boulder Creek, then climbed up here, came across this big basin, over this little ridge, and our camp right there. And it's about 10 kilometers the way the crow flies, about 15 kilometers on the ground. Day 16 or 17 now, and a lot of our aches and pains have kind of left, and we're starting to get used to the heavy packs. But what's happened in exchange for that is we're always hungry. We're hungry in the morning when we wake up, we're hungry right after we eat breakfast, we're hungry all day, we're hungry right after we've eaten dinner, we're hungry when we go to bed. So the metabolisms have started racing now, and we can't possibly carry enough on our backs to keep up.
En route, we pass a research station, which is a convenient place to wait for a resupply. Using the satellite phone, we call in a plane to drop off one of the food caches we put together before the trip.
Got the groceries, honey? Live impact. Blue. Toilet paper.
Oh, Lord. Not this again. currently seem to be surrounded by bears.
No sooner did we come towards this campsite, we saw one over here digging. And that's probably this one here going over the hill. And this guy's new, came around. He was coming right downstream, but he's giving us a bit of a berth. They all seem to be doing exactly what we're doing. Just hanging around where caribou are headed or they've been. There, we're just passing through here. Go on. Just minding our own business. Don't mean you any harm at all.
We went another kilometer up the valley in 500 feet or so and camped again. And just as we were setting up the tent, I looked behind Karsten and there was another bear.
Yeah, smaller and pretty rangy looking and coming right up our ski tracks, which was probably the most disconcerting thing. Like her nose was down, looking up, so she knew exactly what she was after. But just anything you did didn't matter. She just kept coming. And we shouted, set off one bear banger. She, just a little flinch. Set off another, hardly a reaction. And then
She started circling. She kind of came in and then started to make a little bit of a circle and seemed to be kind of coming in each time.
we each had our knives in our pockets and our
Yeah.
bear sprays uncocked. And then finally what got her is we had just started setting up the tent. And there was one pole in it. And I just picked up the whole thing, kind of broadside, and moved towards her. And that was finally enough. But she didn't run.
No, she just sauntered away.
Yeah, it wasn't like the other. It wasn't like the other bears.
I think it didn't really hit me. I was still kind of in shock until we laid down in bed, and then I just felt totally overwhelmed and just scared.
I was kind of embarrassed what I was thinking of right afterwards. I was saying to myself, forget the caribou. It just isn't worth it. Forget the project. Forget this trip.
Here we are, going to the calving grounds with a bunch of hungry bears. This is nuts.
We love the idea of wilderness or wildness. And I guess disappointing when you actually are put in a situation where you are part of the wilderness or part of the wildness, and all you want to do is have safety. But that isn't part and parcel of wildness.
May 22nd, 2003. We're just about to cross into Alaska, and there's some caribou behind us that are just about to do the same thing. And if it weren't for the line on the map, you'd never know it out here that we were crossing a major significant border. And for us it's no big deal, but for the caribou it's huge. In Canada, where they've just been, their calving grounds are fully protected, and where they're just about to head, they're not protected.
So George has been riding along for most of the trip in Canada, outside of his jurisdiction. Really, a tourist or sightseer. But, when George steps over this line, as he just did, George, you're in charge now. It's all up to you.
there's the Arctic Ocean. We're definitely getting close to the calving grounds now. With our last resupply, before we reached the calving grounds, we swapped skis for hiking boots. With every plane, we also send out our non-burnable garbage as well as updates for media who are following the journey. Hair's actually not too bad for 40 days no wash. I'm sure a few more gray hairs marched in after that whole grizzly bear thing. After weeks of constant travel, the pregnant cows arrive at the calving grounds. They can finally stop, feed, and rest. This narrow strip of coastal plain provides 3 critical things: a type of grass which they need to produce high-quality milk, and a relative freedom from predators and insects.
It's been raining for about the last 6 hours. Bunch of caribou out there in the distance, just waiting to have a calf. Cold, wet world to be welcomed into.
It's about 5 in the morning. It's cleared off. See this little calf? It's still shiny wet. Trying to take its first steps. You can see the umbilical cord hanging out the back of the cow there. Since we arrived 5 days ago, we've basically been hostages in the tent. So when there have been caribou around, we've literally been peeing in cups inside the tent, going without water for long periods of time just for fear of disturbing them. And the fact that if we do go outside, if they do see any movement, they will spook and the whole group will leave. And that people have talked about caribou and development coexisting. I just can't imagine. They're as fragile as glass right now. They're constantly on the lookout. So, we've been walking on eggshells the whole time just to try not to disturb them, and as far as we know, we haven't yet.
Part of me feels like we shouldn't even be here. Definitely see why. This is sacred for Gwich'in people.
This is Karsten going to get some water. We're desperate.
Seems like it's changed from winter to summer in a week. Oh, there's lots of calves now. You can probably see about 15 or 20. All zipping around. There's one. He's just doing these huge, raging, fast circles. Showing off. Figuring out what it is to be alive. What it is to be a caribou. And all the cows around him just totally ignoring him. They're all just grazing away. I can't believe this is the exact place where they want to drill for oil.
Just a little earlier on tonight, it kind of hit me like a ton of bricks that, you know, we're here and that we walked all the way here with the caribou. And, you know, sometimes all the words kind of get in the way. But, you know, tonight I felt this place through my feet. And I feel a real attachment growing to this place and to the caribou. So it's June 10th, which generally marks the end of the calving season. In the last 10 days, we've just been amazed at how little it takes for these calves to get separated from their mothers. The calves won't actually take an orphan, so if they get separated, that's it. The calf will never find another mother. They've just got enough milk for the one calf. These caribou have been chased down by a grizzly. They haven't really picked the best spot. It's too steep for Mom to come back up. Oh.
Oh, no.
God, this is just what the bear wants. This is the mom. Still hasn't found her calf. You can kind of hear them panicking. You can see him getting rejected by another mom. Each time he sees a cow, he runs up to it, hopefully. For the next 18 hours, we can hear the cow calling out as she searches for her calf. She never does find her. Today we saw a golden eagle that came in and looked like it took at least wounded a calf and probably go back for the rest of it. And you can see this one right here. It's by the river. Looks like it's been recently killed and eaten. It's heart-wrenching how often separated, lone calves run up to us with the hopes that we might be their mothers. Soon the bulls will rejoin the cows and calves returning to the mountains. Very little is known about how the widely dispersed groups communicate and meet up. Yet thousands of caribou will band together, a group strategy to lessen individual exposure to mosquitoes, botflies that burrow up their noses, and warble flies that lay eggs under their skin.
Over the next few days, we're going to try to set ourselves up for the most dramatic part of the migration, the post-calving aggregations. So that will take place in a couple weeks. So we're trying to sort of get to the eastern side of Alaska, be in position to actually intercept that massive movement. And a lot of people, biologists and others have told us we're going to have to be pretty darn lucky to hit it.
The last 4 days, in our great wisdom, in order to avoid having to meet another bush plane, we decided to just go for it and carry 20 days of food. And it's kind of sinking in how much work we've got ahead in order to keep up to these guys.
Hunger, exhaustion, soreness. I think these next 10 days, those are all going to be constant companions. What? They are.
Yeah, oh, I agree.
And we've talked about this for a long time. Post-calving aggregation, how we would try to assume the schedule of the caribou as much as possible, how we would pick up the tent and go when they did. How we would push ourselves to exhaustion. Mm-hmm. At least trying. We have to try. For 7 days, we've been immersed in a new rhythm. We follow caribou day and night, squeeze naps in when we can, eat on the fly.
An incredible thing is happening. We're being pulled into a different measure of time, where the line between the waking world and the dream world begins to blur.
For the first time, we truly understand Randall's advice. We both start having vivid dreams of where we'll see caribou next, and then we turn the corner, and there they are, in the exact scene we dreamed.
Our understanding of reality is turned upside down. And yet when I look up and see hundreds of trails etched into the mountainsides, they say without a doubt that what we are living now has been happening for thousands of years. Just as we think we're in the flow, we have to acknowledge we're falling behind. So we decide to gamble and cut a corner across the mountains.
We're sitting above the Firth River, maybe 2 kilometers away to the east, and we've positioned ourselves on a ridge that we think will intercept an aggregation if it happens.
So it's been about 3 days now that we've been sort of pacing, sitting around watching and waiting. And I can't help but laugh thinking about a week ago when we felt like we were in the adventure race and in the eco challenge with the caribou. I think they've duped us. I think they've gone on a different course. And it just kind of shows that the caribou don't care where we are.
There's something eating away at both of us in terms of feeling like a bit of a failure, in that there aren't any caribou. You know, we're waiting, but maybe they're just not coming this way.
Our gamble didn't pay off. We can't wait any longer.
Oh, heart thumping, nervous. It's hard to gauge how quick this current is in. I've had my feet in it. It's already pretty cold, so want to make it as quick as possible. Well, after swimming the Firth River yesterday, after a 5-day rest, we're off again. We're trying to catch the caribou. There aren't a lot of recent signs. There's lots of old signs in this valley, Wolf Creek, that we're going up.
We just stumbled upon this along the trail. It's an old muskox skull. Tell by the horns it's an old bull.
We haven't seen any caribou now for 5 days, and there's a yearning inside. But the thing that keeps me going is the thought of those caribou and us catching up and being amongst them again. I really miss being amongst them. Today, we walked for about 15 kilometers looking for caribou. Saw one. Lots of trails, though. You know, sometimes we were moving in the same direction as the tracks and the trails, and sometimes we were against them, and sometimes they were crossing one way, and sometimes to the left, right. And it got me starting to think, you know, our movements are being dictated by caribou, whose movements are being dictated by bugs, whose movements are being dictated by the wind. And so today was like, you know, coming upon an area on a still day and trying to track the shifting winds of yesterday and the day before. It's pretty impossible. We've been surrounded by a herd of 2, 3, maybe 4,000 caribou for the last few hours. And, I mean, of its own, just amazing. But we got a real close-up view of, even on a day when the insects aren't too bad, how they're constantly being harassed and fidgeting and scratching and some flying back and forth, just trying to get rid of something that's up their nose. And right now, we're hearing some of that thrumming, the sound of them kind of mustering themselves up to move. And I don't know, I have a wacko theory that there are elements of that can be heard as undertones through the landscape. Maybe, some, like elephants, something that humans can't hear that communicates to different groups within the herd of where they're going, where they're headed, where they are, what the eating's like, what the traveling conditions are like, whether or not there are any predators, whether or not there are two gangly, thin humans following them. So, anyway, just unbelievable afternoon. I'm just exhausted. We've gone about 500 meters today, but I'm as exhausted as I would have been if we've gone 30 kilometers.
Take a good look around on what was totally full last night. It's completely empty. The bathtub's been drained of caribou.
Yeah, it's hard to believe. It's the same world. It's like you go to sleep and you wake up. It's different. The light's different. The life is different. Would have been nice if they were still here in the morning, just kind of waiting for us.
Yeah, or left a note. Gone to the muskeg. That was awesome, though, how close they were.
And just, how we were at the kind of convergence of three big groups. And I think, we were kind of witnessing post-calving aggregation coming together.
Yeah, it's like this was the big gathering point.
Yeah. You gotta think that something else is at work. It's like something wants us to be with them, and yet something wants to keep us honest.
Keep us working for it.
Keep us working.
Here we are, July 13th, which is somewhere between day 90 and day 100. Yesterday was nice to see a few caribou up on the ridge and really sunk in what a miserable time of year it is for them right now. One of the cow caribou just looked like it was literally being driven mad by the bugs. That would be sort of like us sitting here with no clothes on. At least this is the only area that they can get at. Get kind of driven mental by the noise.
Just adjust to the bugs, huh? Do things a little bit differently. Oh, sorry.
This is intense bugs. It's like with every passing day they get more and more fierce.
Tonight we saw this cow in that creek bed just down from us, and I walked up to have a look up the next valley that we were headed, and this cow kind of just stood there. It didn't look like it was bothered, and it kind of had its head askew. Then after a while we realized, this cow was just standing in the creek and her head, like her muzzle, just in the moss, trying to keep it out of the bugs. And at one point she staggered onto her knees and then tried to get up, and then finally did get up and then kind of snorted, and all this mucus and junk came out of her nose, and she just plunged it back into the moss. And we sat and watched for a while, and it's almost without question she's gonna die there. And the thing that really struck me was there wasn't a sound. It was just quiet. I guess what we're learning as we go along following the caribou is that fate for a lot of them is that they die. And it just makes it all the more, it just impresses it all the more on us how important it is to have areas for them where they really need them for them to be secure. Because there's already a heck of a lot that these caribou go through, and these bugs certainly aren't the least. I had no idea. I had no idea at all. I thought, yeah, they get stung. But tonight it really hit home.
We're out of food when we arrive at Bonnet Lake to meet our next supply drop. Then the weather deteriorates and we wait 4 more days for the plane to come.
Plane still hasn't been able to come in today, and we're hungry. We're really hungry. I've felt dizzy every day now, and just don't have any reserves left. So it's an Arctic ground squirrel. It's pretty fat. It's heavy, and I don't know how it's gonna taste. It's pretty good, It's, I don't know, it's kind of like chicken, but stronger tasting. It's kind of weird having these planes drop out of the sky from nowhere and come into our lives. Yesterday, the pilot, he was really he was glancing at his watch and looking up at the weather and kept going on about what he had to do next, where he had to go, when he had to be there. And I couldn't help but think, there's like a hiccup in time going on here. It's something so disjunct from what we've been experiencing with these caribou. But all of their disturbance, these planes and these helicopters that do come to resupply us are a bit of a gift as well, I think. And that they are a bit of a glimpse into those contradictions that we live with. We're always looking into the future and our minds are taken away from the present. We are rushing from place to place. Our travel, whether it's speeding in a vehicle or hopping in a plane or a train, it's points to point with not much sense for the landscape that's in between, with not much sense for the animals, the other creatures, the plants that occupy those spaces in between, or even those spaces where we end up.
As it grows cooler, the bugs die down, and the caribou experience their first respite since the calving grounds. With fewer bugs, the large groups are able to disperse and feed at leisure. This is a sort of glory time for the caribou. They will begin to fatten up and take on sleek new winter coats.
Well, we're at day 130 something now, and things are really starting to wind down. Colors are changing. Yesterday I felt, I think in my heart for the first time, that the trip's, there's gonna be an end to it.
As we travel further south, definitely a little bit tougher traveling. So we're starting to think about floating the last part of the trip. There's some big rivers, makes sense to float. Friends in Inuvik lend us a canoe, which is dropped off by the next plane.
Within a week, probably about a week, we'll be in Old Crow. And then a week after that, we'll be heading off to Washington, D.C. So, floating down a river on Nature's Highway, I think it's a pretty nice, relaxing way to end off and start to think about, what the whole trip means and how we're gonna make what we've learned on the trip and what the caribou have shown us count and have an impact, make it matter. Just sit there.
Something that happens when you're on a trip for this long and in this place is that you can allow your senses to open totally up and take in absolutely everything. And if you were to be this way in a noisy city with so much stimulation, you'd go crazy. There's a possibility to have your spirit kind of torn in this state. And it's something that I worry about a little bit.
This is our last day of the whole trip, September 7th. We're heading down to Old Crow, and last night, being our last night, was pretty neat. We had just pulled off the river, and then this boat came down, and sort of a squat figure in the front of it, all of a sudden pointing to the driver to go ashore, and big fur hat on, coveralls, and I knew in that moment it was Randall. And he had this huge smile on his face, and he was just giggling as they came ashore. He got off the boat and he just hugged us and just looked at us. I mean, he didn't say anything straight away. It was like the coming together of long lost friends. And there was an immense look of pride on his face too. Like he'd set us off on the journey, and now he was welcoming us back. Even though ours is a trip with a beginning and an end, we really is a little sample of a bigger circle. And you know, we kind of leave with a segment of a journey that's continuing. And so for the caribou, you know, this story is to be continued. It's always to be continued, I hope. I guess that's why we did it. We're in Washington, D.C. after an all-nighter on the plane. I'm just tired, but I'm really looking forward to trying to make our story heard. We've met with various representatives from the House of Congress, their aides, some of the aides of the senators. And it's been disappointing. You know, it's like pouring out your heartfelt story and just having it hit a brick wall.
I said before the trip that my biggest fear is that we're going to become hopelessly attached to these caribou, and then we're going to have to, in our lifetime, see their calving grounds drilled, their numbers decline, and you know, maybe we really did see some of the last times that they migrate. And I don't know that I was prepared for how hard this is going to be.
I don't know what we should do next. I don't know how we should make the story of these caribou resonate. Maybe the answer is to work from the bottom up and not just the top down, as we've been trying. This story hopefully will resonate with people. We have to make them feel it in their hearts. And I guess that's the only pathway, is true democracy.
When we look at life, we look at the universe that the Creator created, it's very important to have respect no matter where we travel in life. That's what I try to do today. That's what the elders taught us a long time ago, to respect all life no matter where people come from, what nationality they are, that you respect them and accept them for who they are. So whether it's the plant life, animal life, the fish life, the bird life, whatever. So come Cochin people, they respect everybody.
Our intention all along was to take George back to the White House. We were sure we packed him an Old Crow, but when we got down to D.C., he was nowhere to be found. George has never been seen since.